Greetings, friends. I am here today to talk about something that has come up a few times in the last few days, so I figure I should probably talk about it. Somebody asked me if you can be a Christian pagan. Then somebody else accused me of being pagan, and I'm not. I'm Christian. So I figured it was worth talking about. So what does it mean? Can you be a Christian pagan? The answer is no. And why? Oh, BRG, you're not being inclusive. That's actually not the reason why you can't be a Christian pagan, because the definition of pagan, according to several different dictionaries, is a pagan is a person holding religious beliefs other than those in main world religions. And that includes anybody who attends a synagogue, a church, or a mosque. That's the definition of pagan. So you can't be a Christian pagan because Christianity is one of the main world religions. So that doesn't mean, however, that Christians don't derive meaning from pagan practices. And we can see that at Christmas specifically and Easter in things like the Christmas tree and wreaths and mistletoe. And I've talked about these things before. And then Easter time, the Easter bunny, the coloring and hiding eggs, right? We do a lot of pagan practices in Christianity, and that's because when they were conquering the Druids and they were conquering the different smaller ancient Celtic faiths and other faiths too, I'm sure, they weren't having a lot of success, so they figured that they could combine some. And Christmas specifically, Jesus was probably not born in the middle of winter. Jesus was probably born in the springtime, but they moved Christmas because they didn't know his birthday. They moved Christmas to Alban Arthur, which is what we'll celebrate. Some people call it Yule, some people call it winter solstice, but the Druid name for it is Alban Arthur, and that is the light of the world. So they moved the celebration to that time period so that it would coincide with the celebration of light, the celebration of the sun. The sun has been buried and it gets reborn, and it's the coming of the light. So the sun and the sun, so that's where that comes from. So I found this very interesting website done by Washington State Prison. And it's like it's a thing that, let me see if I can get my computer to move. It's an infographic on Wicca, Druidry, paganism, Asutru, and what are they? And at first I was like, because some of the information in here is just flat out wrong. But I applaud the attempt, because my first teaching job was in a prison. And I think the COs, they do their very best to understand all the different things that come into the prison. And so somebody made an attempt to try to understand and explain what the differences between all of them are. So you can see here under paganism, it talks about polytheism, or believing in a number of gods. It's nature-based. Druidry is also nature-based, the philosophy, and those who honor the religious aspects of it. And then many pagans believe in a sacred feminine. Although I've watched some videos and when I was healing with my heel, and that's not actually true in all cases. So I'm not an expert on paganism, and I don't want to speak on behalf of pagans. I think that there are rich and vibrant and diverse traditions in paganism. So I think your best bet is to do research. And if you're not Christian, if you're not Jewish, if you don't go to a mosque, like if you're not part of the three main religions, but you still believe in different gods, or you're spiritual in some way, chances are you might align or be interested in learning more about paganism. Then they talk about Druidry, and it's a struggle. Druidry comes from the legends around King Arthur. That, my friends, is horse hockey, in the words of Colonel Potter, for those of you who are old enough to know what MASH is. So interesting. They're talking here in this thing about this gang. They're talking about an actual gang that exists today. So that's so that they know what symbols to look for. And I remember when I trained at the prison, I was taught how to, the Bloods and the Crips are the popular gangs up here. So we were taught all different symbols and what they meant. So that's interesting. So I had never heard of gangs that were rooted in Arthurian symbolism. I had no idea. There's no one set of beliefs that Druidry follows. That is actually the truth. I'm case in point because I'm an independent Druid. And while I do use a lot of the materials of Obod, and I do watch their stuff, I'm not a joiner in that way. It feels a lot like church, and it has the attitude of church, and the people, without judgment, the people feel a lot like church people. Like there's the in crowd and the out crowd. That's not my thing. All right, and then they talk about Wicca, and again, I'm not an expert on Wicca. Most Wiccans believe in a horned male god and a moon goddess. That is not true. Some of them do, but a lot of them don't. And so, I think again, they're probably training people to understand what folks might be drawing or what they might have tattoos of or whatever. But from what I've learned in my recovery period is that Wicca is a very expansive and diverse religion, and some people are not religious Wiccans. They follow the teachings of Gardner, who's the guy that kind of rediscovered or founded it in the 50s, or maybe he founded it in the 30s and it was published in the 50s or whatever. But I have found that there is no universally accepted Wiccan practice, and some people believe it's a religion, but there are some people who don't. So that's interesting. The only Wiccans who do not believe in both the goddess and the god are those who belong to Dianic Wicca. They believe in the existence of only the goddess. I have absolutely no idea if that's true, but I do know that there's no one thing that all Wiccans believe in, so I'm comfortable saying that. Some Wiccans believe that god and goddess are equal. Some Wiccans believe that the goddess is more important than the god. Again, I have no idea if that's true, but it probably is true, but it's probably not the only truth. I have no idea what a Sutru is. A polytheistic religion that worships a wide variety of gods and goddesses. The most well-known are Thor, Odin, Freya, Frigg, Freyr, Tyr, Loki, and Heimdall. I never heard that word used for it, but I do know a lot of my pagan friends, talk about these folks, and I certainly am very connected to the figure of Odin, mythological or otherwise, because I read runes, and the runes come from Odin. So I think it's an interesting, there's information on here that's just wrong, but I applaud the effort to try to understand what these philosophical and spiritual faiths and religious beliefs are, and I applaud them for putting this together. So anyway, I just wanted to share it with you, and to say to my friends who watch this and have asked me, aren't you a pagan because you do all this stuff? I am not a pagan. I'm a Christian. I celebrate all the Christian holidays. I do not attend a church. I'm not against attending a church. I have attended churches. I will attend churches in the future. I'll be at churches during the Advent season, and I'll be in church on Christmas Eve. I just don't belong to one. I have a very strong background in the traditional Anglican Church, not the modern Episcopal Church or the modern Anglican Church. I'm not opposed to churches, and I'm not mad at the church. It's just not where I am right now. Might I ever go back? Maybe. I don't think so. But I am Christian above all else. So, I have a very nature-based spirituality, very earth-based, earth meaning nature-based. My spirituality is very, very driven by what I believe is God's gifts of nature. But I do believe that he had sent his son Jesus here to show light, to show us that we all had light inside of us. And I believe we killed him for that. And then I believe he rose again to show us, like, hey, no, really, I'm full of light and love, and y'all should be too. So I believe that. So religious beliefs our religious beliefs, and that's mine. Not necessarily sold on the Bible being the complete and unfiltered Word of God. I think human hands touched it, and anytime human hands touch anything, something happens. There's more evidence that Mary Magdalene was Jesus's wife than there is that she wasn't. So there's that. So there's just, and I think when you look back through the church, especially the Roman Catholic Church, and the historical nature of different popes that have been in office, you can see that human hands have touched the religion. So I self-select myself out of it. So anyway, that's the difference between paganism and Christianity, and paganism and Judaism. I think that it's important to be respectful and honor everybody's tradition. Anybody who brings light and love into the world, no matter what they believe. Anybody who's willing to shine their light, I am willing to break bread with that person. So, wishing you all the very best in light and love. Be well. Bye-bye.